Hi, welcome back to Examining Life, a life that's worth living. My name is Amanda. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's Wisdom Wednesday. I first want to thank everyone who has subscribed. I really appreciate your support. And if you haven't already, please go ahead and click the red rectangle to subscribe. I also want to thank my patrons. I greatly appreciate your support. With the 4th of July being tomorrow, I have been thinking a lot about the concept of freedom. I'm not going to choose a quote today. I'm simply going to go into a brief analysis of the concept. And this will also primarily be comprised of just me asking questions, as I am unaware of the exact answers to many of the things that I have been pondering. Let me know in the comments below which questions stood out to you the most, and let me know if you have any answers to the questions that I pose. First, what exactly is freedom? What does it mean? And does the reality match what is being said according to the definition? So obviously the dictionary definition of freedom is, quote, exemption from external control, interference, regulation, etc. It's also the power to determine action without restraint, and it can also be political or national independence, end quote. We can point to examples of what freedom is not, such as the highly censored media in some countries. I'm not going to name any, but one can point at those examples and say, look, those citizens are not free to say what they want, specifically not being able to publicly criticize their government. Okay, so we know what freedom is not, but how do we know what freedom actually is? Is freedom inherently a good thing? Maybe it's not. Maybe people actually need enforced restrictions and some form of external forces controlling them. Therefore, they're not necessarily acting out of freedom because an external force might be telling them to do something or act in a certain way. What makes someone free? Is it the person themselves as each individual, or is it the governing body that allows its people to be free? For example, a line in the Declaration of Independence states, quote, a prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people, end quote. Does this imply solely political freedom, or does this include other freedoms as well? Also, what comes first, free people or a tyrant ruler? The quote seems to imply that free people comes first. However, in England during the time of the American Revolution, one can say that the people were not free because of how they were governed. That's not to say they didn't want to be free, or that they preferred to be ruled by a tyrant. Should we have complete freedom? Would this lead to an anarchy? Are we really free? In what ways are we free, and in what ways are we not free? I suppose having some freedom is better than having no freedom. Is freedom actually a tangible thing, or is it simply an emotion? For example, someone can feel free, but not actually be free, although I suppose it can also be a tangible thing because, going off of my previous example, freedom of speech is one thing that we can point to in our country and say, look, we as Americans have the freedom of speech because we can criticize the government, and we're also just in general allowed to critique what is going on in society. And this also allows us to prevent a tyrannical government from taking over. Where does free will come in to the concept of freedom? I suppose one needs freedom in order to have free will, but maybe someone can have the will to do something but lack the freedom to act on it. For example, someone might will to purchase something that they cannot afford, therefore they lack the freedom to buy the item that they want. Although there is also a lot that goes into that, such as priorities, budgeting, etc. But this is simply an example of one way that someone can will something but not have the freedom to act on that will that they so freely have. Is it better to have the concept of freedom and not be able to act on it? Or is it better to not have the concept at all? What's the point of the concept of freedom if you cannot act on it? Although I will admit here, this is clearly a slippery slope, because that is what can easily turn into a tyrannical situation if those in power are kept unchecked. How much does motivation play in having freedom? Thank you so much for watching this week's Wisdom Wednesday. Let me know in the comments below what you think of freedom. Do you have any answers to the questions that I asked today? Do you also have any other questions that I didn't think of? And please remember to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Stay tuned every Wednesday. Thank you. Happy travels. Bye.